In the vast and untamed expanse of the Mongolian steppe, where the endless horizon meets the wide sky, a young boy was born into a harsh and unforgiving world. His name was Temujin, and he would one day become known as Genghis Khan, the universal ruler, who would unite the Mongol tribes and forge an empire that stretched across much of the known world. But his journey to power was neither easy nor certain. Temujin's early life was marked by hardship, betrayal, and struggle, shaping him into one of the most formidable leaders in history. The Mongolian steppe, a land of wide plains and rugged mountains, was home to nomadic tribes that were as fierce and independent as the environment they lived in. Life on the steppe was governed by the seasons, with survival depending on the ability to move swiftly, hunt effectively, and protect one's clan from rivals. The Mongol tribes, though skilled in battle and horsemanship, were fragmented, constantly warring with one another for resources and supremacy. Temujin was born around 1162 into one of these tribes. His father, Yesugei, was a respected clan leader, but when Temujin was just a boy, his father was poisoned by a rival tribe, leaving his family vulnerable. Abandoned by their own people, Temujin's family was left to fend for themselves on the unforgiving steppe. These early years were ones of hardship, where the young Temujin learned the brutal realities of life in the Mongolian wilderness. He faced hunger, the cold bite of winter winds, and the constant threat of enemies. But it was in these difficult years that Temujin's character was forged. He learned resilience, patience, and the importance of loyalty and trust, qualities that would serve him well in the years to come. Despite the betrayals and hardships, Temujin began to gather followers who recognized his leadership abilities, and he slowly started to build alliances with other tribes. As Temujin grew, so did his ambition. He dreamed of something more than the constant infighting that characterized Mongol life. He envisioned a unified Mongol nation, where the tribes could come together, not as enemies, but as one powerful force. His vision was unprecedented, for the Mongols had long been divided by blood feuds and rivalries. Yet Temujin's charisma, strategic mind, and unwavering determination would eventually make this vision a reality. The early life of Genghis Khan was a testament to his perseverance and adaptability. From the young boy abandoned on the steppe to the man who would unite the Mongol tribes, Temujin's journey was one of extraordinary transformation. His rise to power would forever change the course of history, and the empire he built would become one of the largest and most influential the world had ever seen. But before Genghis Khan could lead the Mongols to greatness, he first had to unite them, a task that would require both his tactical brilliance and his deep understanding of the complexities of tribal politics. This is the story of how a young boy from the steppes became the greatest conqueror the world had ever known, and how his legacy reshaped the world for centuries to come. Chapter 1. Uniting the Mongol Tribes. By the late 12th century, the Mongol tribes roamed the windswept plains of Central Asia, living as nomads, each tribe fiercely independent and often at war with one another. For generations, these tribes had been divided by deep-seated rivalries, blood feuds, and a constant struggle for dominance. Life on the steppe was defined by this conflict, where loyalty to one's own clan was paramount, and alliances were fragile and fleeting. Yet, out of this chaotic and fractured landscape, one man emerged with a vision to unite the Mongols under a single banner. His name was Temujin, but history would remember him as Genghis Khan. Temujin's journey to unite the Mongol tribes was neither swift nor simple. After the death of his father, Temujin and his family were abandoned by their own clan, forced to survive in the wilderness on their own. It was a time of immense struggle, but it was also a time of learning for Temujin. He quickly realized that survival depended not just on strength, but on forging alliances, cultivating loyalty, and understanding the complex web of relationships that governed Mongol society. As he grew older, Temujin began to gather a small but loyal group of followers. His charisma and natural leadership abilities drew people to him, and he began to form alliances with other Mongol tribes, some through diplomacy, others through conquest. One of the key factors in his rise was his innovative approach to leadership. Unlike many Mongol leaders who favored loyalty based on family ties and noble birth, Temujin rewarded loyalty based on merit. He promoted men based on their abilities and loyalty to him, not their tribal or family connections. This meritocratic system allowed Temujin to build a more cohesive and disciplined force, one that transcended the traditional tribal divisions. One of the most pivotal moments in Temujin's early life came when he forged an alliance with his blood brother, Jamukha. The two shared a close bond, and for a time they fought together to bring order to the warring Mongol tribes. However, as their ambitions grew, so did the tension between them. Jamukha, a traditionalist who favored the old ways of tribal aristocracy, began to resent Temujin's growing power and his unconventional methods. This tension eventually boiled over into open conflict, and the two former allies became bitter enemies. The rivalry between Temujin and Jamukha culminated in a series of battles, with Temujin emerging victorious. His victory over Jamukha was not just a personal triumph, it was a turning point in Mongol history. With Jamukha's defeat, Temujin consolidated his power and began to lay the groundwork for uniting the Mongol tribes. His victory sent a powerful message to the other Mongol leaders. Temujin was not just another warlord. He was a leader with a vision for a unified Mongol nation. One of the key aspects of Temujin's rise to power was his ability to adapt to changing circumstances. He was a master of both diplomacy and warfare, using whatever means necessary to bring the tribes under his control. Sometimes this meant forging alliances through marriage or negotiation, and at other times it meant defeating his rivals on the battlefield. But no matter the method, Temujin's goal remained the same: to unite the Mongols into a single, powerful force. To accomplish this, Temujin implemented several key reforms that would lay the foundation for his future empire. First, he reorganized the Mongol tribes into military units that cut across traditional tribal lines. This broke the power of the old aristocratic families and ensured that loyalty was directed toward Temujin rather than individual clan leaders. These military units, known as Arbans, Zun, and Minghan, were composed of 10, 100, and 1,000 men, respectively, and were led by commanders chosen for their skill and loyalty rather than their noble birth. In addition to reorganizing the military, Temujin also established a strict code of law, known as the Yasa. The Yasa provided a legal framework for governing the newly united Mongol tribes and emphasized loyalty, discipline, and justice. Temujin's legal code was harsh, but it was also fair, applying equally to all Mongols, regardless of their social status. This sense of justice helped to solidify Temujin's authority and further bound the Mongol tribes together. Temujin's success in uniting the Mongols was not just the result of military might or clever political maneuvering. it was also a result of his ability to inspire loyalty and trust among his followers. He was known for his personal courage, his willingness to share in the hardships of his men, and his fairness in dealing with both allies and enemies. These qualities made him a beloved leader, and as his reputation grew, more and more tribes flocked to his banner. In 1206, after years of warfare, diplomacy, and strategic alliances, Temujin achieved what many had thought impossible. He united the Mongol tribes under a single leader. In a great assembly known as a Kurultai, Temujin was declared Genghis Khan, meaning universal ruler. This moment marked the birth of the Mongol Empire, and Genghis Khan now stood at the head of the most powerful and unified force the steppe had ever seen. The unification of the Mongol tribes was an achievement of monumental significance. Genghis Khan had not only ended centuries of tribal warfare, but he had also forged a new identity for the Mongols, one based on unity, loyalty, and shared purpose. Under his leadership, the Mongol tribes would no longer be confined to the steppes of Central Asia. Genghis Khan had much grander ambitions. He would lead the Mongols beyond their traditional homeland and into the heart of the known world. The next phase of Genghis Khan's life would be defined by conquest. With the Mongol tribes united, he now turned his attention to the great empires that lay beyond the steppe. Empires that had long looked down on the Mongols as little more than nomadic barbarians. What they did not yet realize was that under Genghis Khan's leadership, the Mongols would soon become the greatest military power the world had ever seen. Chapter 2. The Formation of the Mongol Empire. By 1206, Temujin had accomplished what no leader before him had. He united the disparate Mongol tribes under a single banner, emerging from the tribal conflicts of the Mongolian steppe as Genghis Khan, the universal ruler. This unification was not just a symbolic victory. It was the foundation upon which the Mongol Empire would be built. The fractured Mongol tribes had long been embroiled in feuds and rivalries, but under Genghis Khan's leadership, they were transformed into a disciplined and unified military force, ready to expand beyond their traditional homeland. Genghis Khan's first priority as the newly crowned leader of the Mongols was to consolidate his power and create a cohesive structure for his burgeoning empire. He reorganized the Mongol society into a militarized system that cut across traditional clan lines, ensuring that loyalty was directed toward him, not to tribal leaders. This reorganization not only solidified his control, but also allowed for the creation of a more professional and efficient fighting force. One of Genghis Khan's greatest innovations was his ability to harness the nomadic lifestyle of the Mongols and turn it into a formidable military advantage. The Mongol army, composed largely of mounted archers, was incredibly mobile, able to cover vast distances quickly and strike with precision. Their adaptability, speed, and ability to live off the land made them one of the most feared military forces of the time. Genghis Khan emphasized discipline, loyalty, and unity among his troops, rewarding those who demonstrated skill and courage, regardless of their birth. This merit-based promotion system was revolutionary in a world where status was often determined by lineage rather than ability. At the heart of Genghis Khan's military reforms was the structure of the Tumen, the basic fighting unit of the Mongol army, consisting of 10,000 soldiers. These units were further subdivided into smaller groups of 1,110 men, known as the Minghan, Zun, and Arban. Each unit was led by a commander chosen for their leadership and military skill, and the system ensured that the Mongol army could operate with remarkable efficiency and flexibility. This organizational structure allowed Genghis Khan to maintain tight control over his forces while ensuring that his army could adapt to changing conditions on the battlefield. The Mongol army's emphasis on mobility and flexibility was complemented by Genghis Khan's innovative use of psychological warfare. Before launching an attack, the Mongols would often spread fear and panic among their enemies through deception and intimidation. Genghis Khan's reputation for ruthlessness preceded him, and many cities and kingdoms chose to surrender without a fight rather than face the wrath of the Mongols. Those who resisted often met with brutal consequences, serving as a warning to others. However, Genghis Khan also showed mercy to those who submitted willingly, integrating them into his empire and often rewarding their loyalty with positions of power and influence. With his army unified and his leadership unquestioned, Genghis Khan turned his attention to the world beyond the Mongolian steppe. His first major campaign was directed against the Jin dynasty of northern China. The Mongols had long had a contentious relationship with their Chinese neighbors, and the Jin dynasty had previously exerted influence over the Mongol tribes, demanding tribute and treating them as little more than nomadic barbarians. But Genghis Khan was determined to change this dynamic. In 1211, he launched a full-scale invasion of northern China, striking deep into Jin territory. The Mongol campaign against the Jin dynasty was a masterclass in military strategy. Genghis Khan's forces, though smaller in number than the vast armies of the Jin, used their superior mobility and tactics to devastating effect. The Mongols laid siege to fortified cities, employed psychological tactics to weaken the resolve of their enemies, and exploited the Jin's internal divisions. The campaign culminated in the capture of the Jin capital, Zhongdu, modern-day Beijing, in 1215, solidifying Genghis Khan's control over northern China. The conquest of northern China was a turning point in Genghis Khan's career. It not only expanded the Mongol Empire significantly, but also demonstrated the Mongol military's ability to defeat large, well-established empires. Genghis Khan's victory over the Jin dynasty sent shockwaves throughout Asia, signaling the arrival of a new power on the global stage. But Genghis Khan's ambitions did not stop at the borders of China. With northern China under Mongol control, he turned his attention westward, to the Khwarezmian Empire in Central Asia. The Khwarezmian Empire, a prosperous and powerful state that controlled key trade routes along the Silk Road, initially attempted to establish peaceful relations with Genghis Khan. However, a diplomatic incident in 1219, when a Mongol trade caravan was attacked and its envoys executed, triggered a ferocious response from Genghis Khan. The Mongol invasion of the Khwarezmian Empire was swift and brutal. Genghis Khan's forces swept across Central Asia with unprecedented speed, destroying cities, capturing key strategic locations, and decimating the Khwarezmian army. The fall of cities like Samarkand and Bukhara demonstrated the effectiveness of the Mongol military machine and Genghis Khan's ruthless approach to warfare. Entire cities were razed to the ground, and survivors were often spared only if they agreed to serve the Mongol cause. The devastation of the Khwarezmian Empire was so complete that it effectively disappeared from the map. The conquest of Central Asia opened up new opportunities for Genghis Khan's empire. With control of the Silk Road, the Mongols now dominated the trade routes that connected the East and the West, bringing vast wealth into the empire. But more importantly, it allowed for the flow of ideas, technology, and culture between different parts of the world, creating a period of unprecedented cultural exchange. Genghis Khan, despite his reputation for brutality, was a pragmatic ruler who understood the value of trade and diplomacy. He established relations with neighboring powers, promoted religious tolerance, and encouraged the integration of conquered peoples into his empire. The formation of the Mongol Empire was not just a story of military conquest, it was the creation of a new world order. Under Genghis Khan's leadership, the Mongols had transformed from a loose confederation of tribes into a cohesive and powerful empire that spanned from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea. This new empire, built on the foundation of military might, efficient governance, and cultural exchange, would become one of the largest and most influential in history. With the foundations of the Mongol Empire firmly established, Genghis Khan now turned his attention to securing the empire's future. He implemented a series of administrative reforms designed to ensure the stability and longevity of his empire, focusing on justice, trade, and governance. These reforms, along with the continued expansion of Mongol territory, would define the next phase of Genghis Khan's reign. Chapter 3: Conquest of China and Central Asia. With the Mongol tribes united and his authority solidified, Genghis Khan set his sights on the vast empires beyond the Mongolian steppe. His ambition was no longer limited to the unification of the Mongol people. He envisioned a world empire that extended far beyond the steppes. The first target in his sights was the Jin dynasty of northern China, followed by the wealthy and powerful Khwarezmian Empire in Central Asia. These conquests would mark the beginning of Genghis Khan's transformation from a tribal leader into a world-conquering emperor. The campaign against the Jin dynasty, 1211 to 1215. The Mongols had a long-standing rivalry with the Jin dynasty, which controlled northern China. The Jin rulers had previously exerted influence over the Mongol tribes, often demanding tribute and maintaining an uneasy dominance over the steppe peoples. But Genghis Khan was determined to reverse this dynamic and assert Mongol power over the rich and fertile lands of China. In 1211, Genghis Khan launched a full-scale invasion of Jin-controlled northern China. The Mongol army, despite being numerically inferior to the vast forces of the Jin dynasty, employed its trademark mobility, speed, and adaptability to devastating effect. The Mongols were expert horsemen and archers, capable of covering vast distances quickly and attacking from unexpected directions. Their ability to maneuver across difficult terrain and sustain themselves on the move gave them a significant advantage over the more sedentary and heavily armored Jin forces. The Mongol siege tactics were also innovative. While Genghis Khan's forces were initially more adept at open-field battles, they quickly learned how to conduct effective sieges, often incorporating engineers and specialists from conquered peoples. They employed siege towers, catapults, and other siege equipment to breach the walls of heavily fortified cities. One of their key strategies was psychological warfare. The Mongols were known for their brutality toward cities that resisted, but they were equally known for sparing those who surrendered without a fight. This reputation preceded them, often causing cities to capitulate without bloodshed. By 1215, the Mongol forces had laid siege to the Jin capital, Zhongdu, modern-day Beijing. After a prolonged siege, the city fell to Genghis Khan's forces. The Mongol victory over the Jin dynasty was a turning point in the history of East Asia. For the first time, the nomadic tribes of the steppe had decisively defeated one of the major Chinese dynasties, asserting their dominance over a region that had long been considered beyond their reach. The conquest of northern China brought immense wealth into the Mongol Empire. The vast agricultural lands, rich cities, and skilled artisans of northern China became key assets for the Mongols, who began to incorporate Chinese technologies, administrative practices, and cultural influences into their empire. Genghis Khan was not just a conqueror. He was also a pragmatic ruler who recognized the value of adopting the strengths of the peoples he conquered. This policy of assimilation would become a hallmark of Mongol rule. The invasion of the Khwarezmian Empire, 1219 to 1321. Having secured northern China, Genghis Khan turned his attention westward to the Khwarezmian Empire, a powerful and prosperous state that controlled the trade routes of Central Asia. The Khwarezmian Empire was strategically positioned along the Silk Road, connecting the wealth of the East with the markets of the West. It was a key player in the lucrative trade networks that spanned Eurasia, and Genghis Khan saw it as both a rival and an opportunity for expansion. Initially, Genghis Khan sought to establish peaceful relations with the Shah of Khwarezm, Ala ad-Din Muhammad, hoping to secure a trade agreement that would benefit both empires. However, this attempt at diplomacy was met with betrayal. A Mongol trade caravan was attacked, and Genghis Khan's envoys were executed, an insult that could not be ignored. In response, Genghis Khan unleashed the full might of the Mongol army upon the Khwarezmian Empire. The invasion of Central Asia was one of the most devastating campaigns in history. The Mongols swept through the region with incredible speed and ferocity, using their superior mobility and strategic brilliance to overwhelm the much larger Khwarezmian forces. The Mongols did not simply rely on brute force, they used psychological tactics, spreading fear and chaos among their enemies. Cities that resisted were razed to the ground, and their populations were massacred or enslaved. Those that surrendered were often spared and incorporated into the Mongol Empire. The cities of Bukhara, Samarkand, and Merv, some of the most important cultural and commercial centers of Central Asia, fell to the Mongols in rapid succession. The fall of Samarkand in 1220 was particularly significant. Genghis Khan's forces stormed the city's defenses with ease, and after capturing it, the Mongols allowed its artisans and skilled workers to live, sending them to Mongol-controlled lands to help develop the empire. This approach, which combined ruthlessness with pragmatism, became a hallmark of Genghis Khan's rule. The Khwarezmian ruler, Shah Ala ad-Din Muhammad, fled westward, pursued relentlessly by Mongol forces. He eventually died in exile, his empire in ruins. With the destruction of the Khwarezmian Empire, Genghis Khan now controlled the vast trade networks of Central Asia, including the highly profitable Silk Road. The impact of the conquests. Genghis Khan's conquests of northern China and Central Asia fundamentally reshaped the geopolitical landscape of Eurasia. The Mongol Empire now stretched from the Pacific Ocean in the east to the Caspian Sea in the west, covering a vast and diverse range of territories. These victories not only expanded the Mongol Empire's borders, but also cemented Genghis Khan's reputation as one of the most formidable military leaders in history. However, Genghis Khan's conquests were not solely about military domination. He recognized the value of the lands and peoples he had conquered and sought to integrate them into his empire. The Mongol Empire became a melting pot of cultures, ideas, and technologies, as Genghis Khan encouraged trade, communication, and the exchange of knowledge across his vast domain. Scholars, merchants, and artisans from the newly conquered territories were welcomed into the Mongol fold, bringing with them advancements in science, technology, and governance. In many ways, Genghis Khan's conquests laid the foundation for a new era of cultural and economic exchange. Under Mongol rule, the Silk Road flourished, facilitating the movement of goods, ideas, and people between East and West. The Mongol Empire became a conduit for the spread of technologies like gunpowder, papermaking, and printing, which would have a profound impact on the civilizations that came into contact with the Mongols. Genghis Khan's conquests were not just a story of destruction and conquest, they were also the beginning of a new world order. The Mongol Empire would become one of the largest and most influential empires in history, reshaping the political, economic, and cultural landscape of Eurasia. As Genghis Khan continued to expand his empire, he turned his attention to governance, ensuring that his newly conquered territories were efficiently integrated into the Mongol system. His administrative reforms, including the establishment of a legal code and the promotion of trade, would lay the groundwork for the next phase of his legacy, the establishment of the Pax Mongolica, a period of peace and stability that would allow the Mongol Empire to thrive. Chapter 4. The Legacy of Genghis Khan's Governance. Genghis Khan is often remembered for his sweeping military conquests and his ability to command one of the most fearsome armies in history. But his legacy extends far beyond the battlefield. While his military campaigns reshaped the geopolitical landscape of Eurasia, it was his vision for governance and the reforms he implemented that laid the foundation for the long-term stability and success of the Mongol Empire. Genghis Khan was not only a conqueror, he was also a shrewd and pragmatic ruler who understood that the empire he built would only endure if it was governed with justice, efficiency, and unity. The Mongol Empire was a vast and diverse realm, stretching from China in the east to the Caspian Sea in the west. It encompassed a wide range of cultures, languages, and religions, and maintaining control over such a sprawling empire required more than military might. Genghis Khan recognized the need for a system of governance that would transcend tribal loyalties and create a sense of unity among his subjects. To achieve this, he implemented a series of administrative reforms that helped to centralize power while maintaining the flexibility needed to govern such a diverse empire. One of Genghis Khan's most important contributions to governance was the creation of a legal code known as the Yasa. The Yasa was a set of laws that applied to all Mongols, regardless of their tribal affiliations or social status. It was designed to promote discipline, unity, and justice within the Mongol Empire. The code emphasized the importance of loyalty to Genghis Khan and the empire, as well as the need for honesty, fairness, and mutual respect among Mongol citizens. Crimes such as theft, treason, and betrayal were harshly punished, while those who demonstrated loyalty and skill were rewarded. The Yasa was more than just a set of laws. It was a unifying force that helped to bind the Mongol tribes together under Genghis Khan's rule. By applying the same legal principles to all Mongols, regardless of their background, Genghis Khan created a sense of shared identity and purpose among his people. This legal framework helped to eliminate the divisions that had long plagued Mongol society, replacing tribal rivalries with a loyalty to the empire and its leader. Religious tolerance was another key aspect of Genghis Khan's governance. Unlike many conquerors who sought to impose their own beliefs on the peoples they ruled, Genghis Khan was remarkably open-minded when it came to religion. He understood that the Mongol Empire encompassed a wide range of religious traditions, including Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, and shamanism, and he believed that allowing his subjects to practice their faiths freely would help to maintain peace and stability within the empire. As long as his subjects remained loyal to the empire and followed the laws of the Yasa, they were free to worship as they chose. Genghis Khan's policy of religious tolerance extended beyond mere acceptance. He actively sought to incorporate religious leaders into the administration of his empire. He recognized the influence that religious figures held over their communities and sought to win their support by granting them privileges and exemptions. In return, many religious leaders helped to promote loyalty to the Mongol Empire among their followers. This pragmatic approach to religion helped to ensure the loyalty of diverse populations within the empire and contributed to the overall stability of Mongol rule. Trade and commerce were also central to Genghis Khan's vision for the Mongol Empire. The Mongols, despite their reputation as fearsome warriors, were also shrewd traders who understood the value of economic prosperity. Genghis Khan sought to create a safe and efficient network of trade routes that would connect the far-flung regions of his empire and facilitate the movement of goods, ideas, and people. The Mongol Empire's control of the Silk Road, one of the most important trade routes in the world, allowed for a flourishing of trade between East Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. To support this trade network, Genghis Khan implemented a system of postal stations known as the Yam. The Yam consisted of a series of way stations located along major trade routes, where couriers and traders could rest, resupply, and change horses. This system allowed for the rapid transmission of messages and goods across vast distances, helping to create a sense of cohesion within the empire. The Yam also ensured that merchants could travel safely across Mongol-controlled territories, knowing that they would be protected by the Mongol army and have access to the resources they needed for their journeys. Genghis Khan's commitment to promoting trade extended to his policies toward merchants and artisans. He encouraged the movement of skilled craftsmen, scholars, and merchants throughout his empire, recognizing the value they brought to the economy and culture of the Mongol realm. In many cases, cities and regions that submitted peacefully to Mongol rule were allowed to retain their local industries and trade networks, while those who resisted were often destroyed or depopulated. The Mongol Empire under Genghis Khan was not just a military juggernaut, it was also a hub of cultural exchange. The empire's vast territory encompassed a wide range of peoples and traditions, and the flow of goods and ideas along the trade routes created a vibrant cultural exchange between East and West. Chinese technologies such as gunpowder, papermaking, and printing were transmitted to the Middle East and Europe, while Islamic and Persian scholars shared their knowledge of science, mathematics, and medicine with the Mongols. This exchange of ideas and technologies would have a lasting impact on the development of Eurasian civilization. In addition to promoting trade and cultural exchange, Genghis Khan took steps to ensure the efficient administration of his empire. He appointed capable administrators and governors to oversee the provinces of his empire, many of whom were chosen for their abilities rather than their background. Genghis Khan's meritocratic approach to governance ensured that the most talented individuals, regardless of their ethnicity or religion, were given positions of power within the Mongol administration. This policy helped to integrate conquered peoples into the Mongol Empire and fostered a sense of unity and cooperation among its diverse populations. Genghis Khan's legacy as a ruler was not just defined by his military prowess, but by his ability to create a stable and efficient system of governance that allowed the Mongol Empire to thrive. His administrative reforms, legal code, religious tolerance, and promotion of trade and cultural exchange laid the foundation for the Pax Mongolica, a period of peace and prosperity that would allow the empire to flourish long after his death. The legacy of Genghis Khan's governance would continue to shape the Mongol Empire for generations, as his successors built upon the foundations he had established. Under his leadership, the Mongols had not only created one of the largest empires in history, but they had also created a new world order, one in which the flow of goods, ideas, and cultures across Eurasia would shape the future of civilizations for centuries to come. Chapter 5. The Pax Mongolica. Following Genghis Khan's remarkable conquests and the establishment of a vast empire stretching across Asia and into Europe, a new era of peace and stability emerged across the lands under Mongol control. This period, known as the Pax Mongolica, or Mongol Peace, was one of the most significant legacies of Genghis Khan and his successors. It was a time when the Mongol Empire, once feared for its ruthless military campaigns, became a bridge between cultures, fostering trade, communication, and the exchange of knowledge across vast distances. The Pax Mongolica spanned roughly from the mid-13th century to the late 14th century, beginning shortly after Genghis Khan's death in 1227 and continuing through the reigns of his descendants. During this period, the Mongol Empire was at the height of its power, governing over a diverse array of peoples and territories from China to the Middle East and Eastern Europe. The stability brought about by Mongol rule allowed for a flourishing of commerce, the spread of ideas, and the development of diplomatic and cultural ties between East and West. The expansion of trade and the Silk Road. At the heart of the Pax Mongolica was the Silk Road, the ancient trade network that connected China with Central Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. Under Mongol rule, the Silk Road was revived and expanded, becoming the primary artery for the exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies across the empire. The Mongols recognized the importance of trade to their empire's prosperity, and they took great care to ensure the safety and efficiency of the trade routes. Merchants and travelers from all corners of the empire and beyond could traverse the Silk Road with relative safety, knowing they were under the protection of the Mongol army. The Mongols established a system of caravanserais, or roadside inns along the trade routes, where merchants could rest, resupply, and exchange goods. The Mongol postal system, known as the yam, also facilitated communication and the movement of people and goods across vast distances. These innovations allowed trade to flourish at levels not seen in centuries, creating new wealth for both the Mongols and the cities and regions under their rule. The Mongol Empire's encouragement of trade extended far beyond the borders of its own realm. The Mongols actively promoted contact with foreign traders, particularly those from the Islamic world, India, and Europe. Merchants from Venice, Genoa, and other European cities traveled to the Mongol court, seeking opportunities for trade and commerce. These exchanges were not limited to material goods. They also involved the transmission of ideas, technologies, and cultural practices. Chinese innovations such as paper money, compass navigation, gunpowder, and printing made their way to the West through these trade routes. At the same time, Islamic and Persian scholars introduced advancements in mathematics, astronomy, and medicine to the Mongols, who eagerly absorbed and applied this knowledge. The spread of these ideas and technologies was one of the most lasting impacts of the Pax Mongolica, influencing the development of civilizations across Eurasia for centuries to come. cultural exchange and diplomacy. The Pax Mongolica was not only a time of economic prosperity, but also of unprecedented cultural exchange. The Mongol Empire, with its vast and diverse population, became a melting pot of cultures, languages, and religions. The Mongol rulers, while maintaining their own cultural identity, were remarkably open to the customs and beliefs of the people they ruled. This openness allowed for the exchange of ideas between different civilizations, creating a dynamic and interconnected world. Religious tolerance was a hallmark of Mongol rule. Genghis Khan and his successors understood that the stability of their empire depended on respecting the religious practices of the peoples they had conquered. As long as their subjects remained loyal to the empire and paid tribute, they were free to practice their faiths without interference. This policy of religious tolerance allowed for the coexistence of Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, and shamanism within the empire, fostering an environment in which ideas and philosophies could be shared across cultural and religious boundaries. The Mongol Empire also became a center for diplomatic exchange, as rulers from distant lands sought to establish relations with the great Khans. Envoys from Europe, the Middle East, and East Asia traveled to the Mongol court, seeking alliances, trade agreements, and knowledge. One of the most famous of these envoys was the Venetian merchant Marco Polo, who traveled to the court of Kublai Khan, Genghis Khan's grandson, in the late 13th century. Marco Polo's accounts of his travels and the wealth and splendor of the Mongol Empire would later inspire European explorers like Christopher Columbus to seek new trade routes to the east. The Mongol court itself became a hub of intellectual exchange, where scholars from across the empire gathered to share their knowledge and expertise. Persian, Chinese, and Arab scholars contributed to the development of astronomy, medicine, and mathematics, while Mongol leaders encouraged the creation of maps and geographic knowledge that helped to unify their vast empire. This cross-cultural exchange was one of the defining features of the Pax Mongolica and contributed to the development of a more interconnected world. Stability and governance. The Pax Mongolica was made possible by the stability that Genghis Khan and his successors brought to their empire. After decades of warfare and conquest, the Mongol rulers turned their attention to maintaining order and ensuring the effective governance of their territories. The Mongol Empire was divided into 4 khanates, each ruled by a descendant of Genghis Khan, but all were united under the authority of the great Khan in Karakoram, and later in Beijing under Kublai Khan. This system allowed for a degree of local autonomy while maintaining the overall unity of the empire. One of the most important elements of Mongol governance was the emphasis on law and order. The Yasa, Genghis Khan's legal code, was enforced throughout the empire, promoting justice and equality among the Mongols and their subjects. The Yasa emphasized loyalty, discipline, and respect for the law, helping to create a sense of order within the empire. This legal framework allowed the Mongol Empire to function efficiently, despite its vast size and diverse population. The Mongol rulers were also known for their meritocratic approach to governance. Genghis Khan had always valued loyalty and ability over noble birth, and this principle continued to guide Mongol rule. Talented individuals, regardless of their ethnicity or background, were often appointed to high-ranking positions within the empire. This system of meritocracy helped to foster loyalty among the empire's diverse population, and ensured that the most capable individuals were in positions of power. The lasting impact of the Pax Mongolica. The Pax Mongolica had a profound and lasting impact on the world. It created an era of peace and stability that allowed for the flourishing of trade, the exchange of ideas, and the development of new technologies. The Mongol Empire became a bridge between the East and the West, facilitating the movement of goods and knowledge across continents. The Silk Road, which had once been a dangerous and unpredictable trade route, became a well-protected and efficient network under Mongol rule. This facilitated the exchange of goods such as silk, spices, precious metals, and textiles, as well as the spread of ideas and innovations that would shape the development of civilizations from China to Europe. The Pax Mongolica also contributed to the rise of new centers of learning and culture, particularly in the Middle East and Central Asia. Cities such as Baghdad, Samarkand, and Kashgar became hubs of intellectual activity, where scholars from different traditions came together to exchange knowledge. This exchange of ideas had a profound influence on the development of science, mathematics, and philosophy in both the Islamic world and Europe. While the Pax Mongolica eventually came to an end in the late 14th century, following the fragmentation of the Mongol Empire and the rise of new powers, its legacy endured. The cultural, economic, and intellectual exchanges that took place during this period helped to lay the groundwork for the Renaissance in Europe and the continued development of trade and diplomacy between East and West. The Pax Mongolica was not just a period of peace and prosperity. It was a turning point in world history, one that reshaped the political and cultural landscape of Eurasia and left an indelible mark on the development of human civilization. Chapter 6: The Death of Genghis Khan and the Expansion of the Mongol Empire. By the early 13th century, Genghis Khan had established the foundations of one of the largest empires the world had ever seen. His military campaigns had expanded Mongol control from the steppes of Mongolia to the vast territories of China, Central Asia, and beyond. The Mongol Empire had become an unstoppable force, known for its disciplined armies, efficient governance, and promotion of trade and cultural exchange. However, despite his unmatched success, Genghis Khan knew that his own life would eventually come to an end. The challenge of ensuring the continued expansion and stability of the empire would rest on the shoulders of his successors. In 1227, after decades of conquests and leadership, Genghis Khan died. The exact circumstances of his death remain shrouded in mystery. Some historical accounts suggest that he died from injuries sustained during a military campaign against the Tangut people in western Xia, in present-day China, while others speculate that he succumbed to illness or old age. Regardless of the cause, Genghis Khan's death marked the end of an era, but it did not signal the collapse of the empire he had built. His legacy would continue through his descendants, who would expand the empire to even greater heights. The succession and division of the empire. Genghis Khan had prepared for his death by organizing the succession of his empire. As was the custom among the Mongols, leadership would pass to one of his sons, and the empire would be divided into khanates, each ruled by a member of his family. However, Genghis Khan's choice of successor was not without complications. Although he had several sons, the most capable and trusted of them was Ogadei, his third son. Before his death, Genghis Khan made it clear that Ogadei was to be his successor as the Great Khan, the supreme ruler of the Mongol Empire. Ogadei's selection was not simply a matter of inheritance. It was a carefully considered decision based on Ogadei's demonstrated abilities as a leader and administrator. Genghis Khan recognized that Ogadei possessed the qualities needed to continue the expansion of the empire and maintain the unity of the Mongol tribes. Upon Genghis Khan's death, the empire was divided into several khanates, each ruled by one of his sons or grandsons. These khanates were semi-autonomous regions that operated under the overall authority of the Great Khan, based in Karakoram, the capital of the Mongol Empire. The most prominent of these khanates were the Yuan dynasty, China and Mongolia. Led by Genghis Khan's grandson Kublai Khan, this khanate would later establish the Yuan dynasty in China, marking the beginning of Mongol rule over one of the most advanced civilizations of the time. The Chagatai Khanate, Central Asia. This khanate was ruled by Chagatai, another of Genghis Khan's sons, and controlled the regions of Central Asia, including Samarkand and Bukhara. The Ilkhanate, Persia. Established in Persia and the Middle East, this khanate was ruled by Hulagu Khan, a grandson of Genghis Khan. The Ilkhanate would play a significant role in the history of the Islamic world. The Golden Horde, Russia and Eastern Europe. This khanate, ruled by Batu Khan, another of Genghis Khan's grandsons, would come to dominate Russia and parts of Eastern Europe, including Ukraine and Kazakhstan. The division of the empire into khanates allowed for a degree of local autonomy while maintaining the overall unity of the Mongol Empire. The Great Khan, based in Karakoram, retained the authority to make decisions that affected the entire empire, while the regional Khans governed their territories in accordance with Mongol customs and laws. Oghedi Khan and the continued expansion of the empire. Following Genghis Khan's death, Ogadei ascended to the position of Great Khan, taking on the responsibility of continuing his father's legacy. Ogadei proved to be a capable and ambitious leader, committed to expanding the Mongol Empire and maintaining its dominance over the known world. One of Ogadei's most significant achievements was the continued conquest of China. Although Genghis Khan had successfully defeated the Jin dynasty in northern China, large parts of the south remained outside Mongol control. Ogadei launched a series of campaigns aimed at subjugating the remaining Chinese territories, further extending Mongol influence over one of the world's wealthiest and most populous regions. Ogadei's ambitions extended beyond China. In the west, the Mongols set their sights on Europe. Under Ogadei's leadership, the Mongol army launched a series of invasions into Eastern Europe, led by Batu Khan, the ruler of the Golden Horde. The Mongols achieved stunning victories over the Kievan Rusas and advanced into Hungary, Poland, and other parts of Central and Eastern Europe. The Mongol forces, characterized by their mobility, discipline, and innovative tactics, seemed unstoppable as they swept across the plains of Europe. The Mongol advance into Europe was halted only by the death of Ogadei in 1241. The death of the Great Khan prompted the Mongol commanders to return to Karakoram to participate in the selection of a new leader, a decision that spared Europe from further Mongol invasions. Despite this interruption, the Mongol Empire had already established itself as the dominant power across Asia and Eastern Europe, reshaping the political landscape of the continent. The legacy of Genghis Khan's death. While Genghis Khan's death marked the end of his personal leadership, his legacy endured through the continued expansion and consolidation of the Mongol Empire by his descendants. The Mongol Empire grew to encompass an even greater portion of the world's landmass, becoming the largest contiguous empire in history. By the time of its greatest extent, the empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the Black Sea, incorporating a wide range of cultures, peoples, and religions. The legacy of Genghis Khan's conquests extended far beyond the military. His administrative reforms, including the creation of the Yam postal system, the enforcement of the Yasa legal code, and the promotion of religious tolerance, helped to create a stable and cohesive empire. The Mongol rulers who followed Genghis Khan continued to build on these foundations, ensuring that the Mongol Empire remained a powerful and prosperous entity for generations. One of the most enduring aspects of Genghis Khan's legacy was the Pax Mongolica, the period of peace and stability that allowed for the flourishing of trade and cultural exchange across Eurasia. The Mongol Empire, once feared for its ruthless military campaigns, became a conduit for the exchange of ideas, technologies, and goods between East and West. The Silk Road, under Mongol protection, facilitated the movement of merchants, scholars, and travelers, creating a more interconnected world. Genghis Khan's death did not weaken the Mongol Empire. Instead, it marked the beginning of a new phase in its history. His descendants, particularly Kublai Khan, Batu Khan, and Hulagu Khan, continued to expand and consolidate the empire, leaving a lasting impact on the history of Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. While the Mongol Empire eventually fragmented and declined in the centuries that followed, the legacy of Genghis Khan and his descendants remains one of the most remarkable chapters in world history. The empire they built reshaped the political, cultural, and economic landscape of the medieval world, leaving an indelible mark on the development of human civilization. Chapter 7: Genghis Khan's Enduring Legacy. The death of Genghis Khan in 1227 did not mark the end of his influence. Far from it, his legacy lived on, not just in the Mongol Empire he founded, but in the way he reshaped the political, military, and cultural landscapes of Eurasia. The empire he built was unlike any that had come before, and it would inspire empires and states long after its decline. The far-reaching consequences of Genghis Khan's leadership, his governance reforms, his vision for trade and cultural exchange, and his military innovations left an indelible mark on history, one that continues to be felt today. The largest contiguous empire in history. At its peak, the Mongol Empire covered approximately 9.27 million square miles, making it the largest contiguous empire the world has ever seen. Genghis Khan's successors, particularly Kublai Khan, extended the empire to its maximum reach, ruling over vast territories from Eastern Europe to the Pacific Ocean, from Siberia to the Indian subcontinent. This massive territory spanned numerous cultures, languages, and religions, but Genghis Khan's administrative systems and reforms allowed this diverse population to coexist under Mongol rule. The sheer scale of the empire is a testament to Genghis Khan's abilities as a strategist, diplomat, and ruler. His methods of maintaining order through legal structures, religious tolerance, and trade fostered stability across a vast domain. It was this combination of military prowess and governance that allowed the Mongol Empire to remain united for so long, even after his death. The Pax Mongolica and cultural exchange. One of the most enduring aspects of Genghis Khan's legacy is the Pax Mongolica, the Mongol peace. During this period of stability, which began in the mid-13th century and lasted into the late 14th century, the Mongol Empire became a hub of trade and cultural exchange. The empire's protection of the Silk Road facilitated unprecedented levels of interaction between East and West, connecting Europe, the Middle East, India, and China through commerce, diplomacy, and intellectual exchange. Under the Pax Mongolica, goods, ideas, and technologies flowed freely across the empire. Chinese inventions like paper money, gunpowder, and printing spread westward, while Persian, Arab, and Byzantine advancements in mathematics, astronomy, and medicine made their way to the east. The result was a flourishing of knowledge that transcended borders, with Mongol governance playing a central role in creating the conditions for this exchange. This period of peace also allowed merchants and travelers to traverse long distances safely. Notable figures such as Marco Polo and Ibn Battuta journeyed across the Mongol Empire, documenting their experiences and further spreading knowledge of distant lands and cultures. The Mongols' commitment to ensuring the safety of traders and travelers was key to fostering a global economy that linked the markets of Europe and Asia. Military innovation and strategy. Genghis Khan's military innovations revolutionized the art of war and left a lasting legacy on how warfare was conducted in the centuries that followed. His strategic brilliance lay in his ability to adapt and innovate, combining traditional Mongol horse-mounted warfare with new technologies and tactics learned from the peoples he conquered. One of the key elements of Mongol military success was their use of psychological warfare and deception. Genghis Khan often employed feigned retreats, drawing his enemies into traps where the Mongols could launch devastating counterattacks. His ability to gather intelligence and use it effectively on the battlefield was another hallmark of his success. Spies, scouts, and informants provided him with detailed knowledge of his enemy's strengths and weaknesses, allowing him to plan his campaigns with precision. Genghis Khan also revolutionized military organization by creating a system based on meritocracy. Rather than relying on noble birth or tribal affiliations, Genghis Khan promoted individuals based on their abilities and loyalty. This merit-based system ensured that the most capable leaders were in command, further enhancing the effectiveness of the Mongol military. The Mongol military also made extensive use of siege warfare, particularly after absorbing engineers and specialists from conquered territories. Whether laying siege to fortified cities or employing advanced tactics like the use of catapults and trebuchets, the Mongols demonstrated an ability to learn and adapt new techniques, integrating them into their own military strategies. Genghis Khan's legal and administrative reforms. Genghis Khan's legacy extends beyond his military conquests to his governance and legal reforms. He established the Yasa, a legal code that emphasized loyalty, discipline, and justice. The Yasa applied to all Mongols, regardless of their status, and it provided a framework for maintaining order within the empire. The enforcement of these laws helped to create a sense of unity and cohesion among the Mongol tribes and their conquered subjects. In addition to the Yasa, Genghis Khan implemented a system of meritocratic governance that allowed individuals of all backgrounds to rise through the ranks of the Mongol administration. His policy of appointing talented administrators, regardless of their ethnicity or religion, fostered loyalty to the empire and ensured that the best and brightest minds were helping to govern the vast Mongol territories. Genghis Khan's administrative reforms also extended to trade and communication. The Yam postal system, which he established, allowed for the rapid transmission of messages and goods across the empire. This network of way stations facilitated both governance and commerce, ensuring that the empire remained connected despite its vast size. The Yam system helped integrate far-flung regions into the broader Mongol economy and administrative structure. Religious tolerance and diplomacy. One of the most remarkable aspects of Genghis Khan's legacy is his policy of religious tolerance. Unlike many conquerors who sought to impose their own beliefs on the peoples they ruled, Genghis Khan understood the value of allowing his subjects to practice their own faiths. As long as they remained loyal to the empire and paid tribute, they were free to worship as they chose. This religious tolerance extended to the appointment of religious leaders within the Mongol administration. Genghis Khan often sought the counsel of Buddhist, Muslim, Christian, and Taoist leaders, recognizing their influence over their communities. This pragmatic approach to religion helped to ensure stability within the empire and fostered an environment in which different cultures and beliefs could coexist peacefully. Genghis Khan's diplomatic efforts were equally significant. He established diplomatic relations with many foreign rulers, including the Caliphate in the Middle East, the Sultanates of India, and various European powers. These diplomatic ties, often facilitated through the exchange of ambassadors and envoys, helped to create a more interconnected world. A lasting influence on world history. Genghis Khan's legacy can be seen not only in the immediate aftermath of his conquests, but also in the broader sweep of world history. The Mongol Empire facilitated the exchange of ideas, technologies, and goods between East and West, laying the groundwork for the development of the modern world. The Renaissance in Europe, for example, was influenced by the knowledge and technologies that flowed westward during the Pax Mongolica. The administrative and military innovations introduced by Genghis Khan also influenced the development of later empires, including the Ottoman Empire, the Mughal Empire, and even the Russian Empire. His policies of religious tolerance, meritocratic governance, and efficient communication became models for other rulers seeking to maintain control over large, diverse territories. Even today, Genghis Khan's legacy is remembered in Mongolia, where he is revered as a national hero and the founder of the Mongol nation. His image can be found on statues, currency, and cultural symbols throughout the country, and his impact on world history continues to be studied and debated by historians. A legacy beyond conquest. Genghis Khan's legacy is far more complex than that of a mere conqueror. While his military campaigns reshaped the world, it was his vision for governance, trade, and cultural exchange that left a lasting impact on the course of history. His ability to unite the Mongol tribes, create a vast empire, and foster an environment of tolerance and exchange transformed not only the Mongolian steppe, but the entire Eurasian continent. In the centuries that followed his death, the Mongol Empire may have fractured, but the foundations laid by Genghis Khan continued to influence the development of civilizations across Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. His legacy, both feared and admired, endures as a testament to the power of leadership, innovation, and vision.